Hello everyone, it's Matt here, and today I would like to talk to you all about probably my favourite dance record of all time, definitely of the 2000s, Carla by M.I.A. So M.I.A. is one of my favourite artists for a few reasons. Firstly, probably because she's put out some of my favourite albums ever. Carla is definitely the one I'm talking about today, but as well as that, we've got albums like M.I.A, which came out in 2005 and really showed off what she was about as an artist. And later on, albums like M.I.A, which is criminally underrated in my opinion, which was a massive industrial hip-hop kind of fusion with her already explosive style of music, which went on to influence a whole range of artists such as Death Grips and Kanye West on their later projects. But it is Carla that I'm talking about today, as it's one of the most critically acclaimed albums of the 2000s. I wanted to make a classic review. So let us begin with a little bit of context as about who M.I.A. is, the kind of music that she makes, and her initial background. M.I.A. was first born in London, but 6 months into her life, she ended up relocating to Sri Lanka, where her family initially came from. And it was there that she had quite a traumatic upbringing, according to her own personal account of it. In the midst of a civil war, she'd be shot at regularly. Soldiers would shoot at her school, put gun holes through her windows. It was a very violent time to be alive, which eventually ended up having her family relocate to Madras in India before returning to London, where she really developed an interest in art and ended up studying it. Really, in particular, art depicting realism, citing people like Spike Jonze as influences, and eventually started to make music. Initially, she got in touch with certain artists that introduced her to the Roland MC505, which is an amazing sampler, and it's this that she started to use and program beats on, record samples, and eventually adopted the stage name M.I.A. And from this, she started recording singles, eventually released M.I.A in 2005, which was named after her father's political name that he'd use in his activism career. So this combination of quite a violent upbringing and her father's political stance meant that M.I.A.'s music is a lot of the time about politics and quite sensitive subjects such as immigration and war, and it makes very interesting to listen to some of her lyrical contact, along with these bombastic kind of crazy electronic beats and some interesting instrumentation on this record. And this combination of factors is what really sets the scene for a fantastic album. In my opinion, this is one of the best dance albums, if you can classify it as dance, because some people call this a rap album. I wouldn't classify M.I.A. personally as a rapper, but it also incorporates elements of world music, and this includes, say, the Oromo drums, which is used in native Ghana music in songs like Boys. She ended up doing a bit of recording in Australia, where I think she sampled the Wilcannia Mob on the track Mango Down Pickle River, which was already a song. I think they did a remix of it. It was like the 6th track on the album, which is kind of cool. And also loads of other locations such as Trinidad, Jamaica, and even Liberia, where she captured music of tribes thanks to the MacBook Pro, her Logic and microphone combination that she'd used to record things, where she travelled with her producer Switch, who had a massive impact on this album as well. They would produce together, she'd write lyrics, and that's where a lot of the songs came from, with I think Switch being credited as a co-writer on almost every song on the album and a producer on all of them. And M.I.A. described this in a really interesting way, calling it making a big old marble cake with lots of different countries and influences, and then you can slice it up and call each slice a song. And I love that context, this sort of idea of bringing together all these different genres and types of music, different experiences that people have had, and putting them into such a universal dance record that can be appreciated by at least everyone in the West. And it's a fantastic sort of smorgasbord of ideas and opinions and sort of statements, which is why I really enjoy this album to begin with. And also another interesting bit of context behind Carla is the origin of its name, which actually comes from her mother. Her mother is called Carla, in the same way that she named M.I.A after her father. And she describes Carla as a feminine album, sort of talking about the upbringing and care of children, bringing them into the world, into perhaps what is not so much a friendly place or safe place, but, you know, sort of teaching them how to live. And there are songs on here where the wisdom of traveling and many years of experience comes across. M.I.A. herself said that the album is about her mum and her struggle, how you work, feed your children, nurture them, and give them the power of information. And again, I find this an interesting concept going into the album with. Some of the songs also reference certain experiences that she's had during her time traveling around. I refer back to the song Boys, the third track on the album. I think a single version of this actually features Jay-Z. That's not the version featured on the album, but that's quite a cool feature, I think, and really shows the recognition that the mainstream sort of hip-hop had for her. And she went on to work with people like Jay-Z and Kanye West. And Boys references her time in Jamaica, taking a 2,000-year-old drum beat, so she said, referring to crime in Lawrenceville and the Dupper Bounce, which is a Jamaican dance. I find that kind of cool. You got other tracks like Hustle, which refers to refugees and immigrant culture. And then you have songs like Jimmy, which are a little bit more light-hearted and sort of more kind of mainstream pop, which are a tribute to the Bollywood film that she associates with her mother, bringing back that reference to Carla being reference to motherhood. XR2, the 10th track on the album, refers to dance music in the 1990s, which again is a massive influence on this album, being a dance album, and references like drum machines like 808s, MPCs, which is kind of cool. And obviously you have the massive Paper Planes, which could be considered an ironic song, again, about immigration, migration, and how a lot of richer Western countries views these migrants as threats to their overall economy and well-being. The chorus, obviously, with all those gunshots in it. So you have all these interesting themes that are brought up on the album. Other, obviously, interesting concepts include the song $20, perhaps a continuation of the song $10 off Arila, which talks about how cheap guns are in Africa. $20 is how much you can buy an AKA for in Africa, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. And that's why war is such a big problem over there. So yeah, some very serious topics for what would be considered quite a light-hearted genre and generally dance music. It's probably worth mentioning the music and sort of the production behind the album here too, as obviously that is the biggest draw for me as someone who is more into the musical side of listening to things. Again, I refer back to Paper Planes, the biggest single off the album, and M.I.A.'s biggest single to date, who knows if she'll ever top it, which samples Straight to Hell by The Clash. Again, another kind of interesting influence. We haven't really heard much from the sort of rock, alternative punk kind of scene yet on this album, but it's a beautiful little sample and it's interpolated so well into this track. I love the production of it. Almost feels very sort of optimistic, the kind of thing you'd hear, say, in a movie score or something like that, with this really sort of propulsive kick drum to it. And the drum production is fantastic on this album. I love it. Again, I'll refer back to $20, which is actually my personal favourite off the album, which, again, borrows lyrics from Where Is My Mind by the Pixies, and I think credits Black Francis as a songwriter on the track. And actually, the bass line is borrowed from Blue Monday, I think. I don't know if this was on purpose or not, and I don't know if you can copyright a single bass line, but that classic sort of 6-note melody is used in both songs. But honestly, I prefer it. The gargantuan sort of bass line that's used with these massive synths. It's beautiful. These really, really well-produced sidechain kicks, which sort of reverberate throughout the track as M.I.A.'s vocals fit seamlessly over the top with these kind of auto-tune sort of screams going out over the top of it. And it really represents both the anguish and sort of heart behind this track. I love it. The opening track, Bamboo Banger, which we haven't mentioned yet, again, another literal banger, samples music from the film Talapati, which is an Indian crime drama in Tamil. And this has this fantastic driving synths that are heard throughout the album. And again, amazing drum production, be it the drum machines such as these 808s and MPCs that are mentioned, the 505 sampler, along with these aforementioned 2,000-year-old drum beats and sort of more native world kind of sounds that are being combined in this really great fusion. And honestly, it's the instrumentation that really makes this album pop, and it's colourful. Even the artwork is colourful, if I show you it again. All kinds of crazy clashing colours going on, but sort of almost fusing together to create this beautiful piece of art, and that's what I love about this album. In terms of legacy, it's probably worth mentioning that whilst this album was a critical success, it also went platinum in Canada, silver in the UK, because, you know, British people, eh? And gold in the US, which is quite cool. It was really praised for its inventive combination of genres and overall songwriting. And as I said, M.I.A. would later go on to write records like M.I.A, which obviously influenced tons of industrial hip-hop artists like Death Grips and, say, Dalek. I wouldn't say this was the most effective industrial album ever, and actually this wasn't as well received. Understandably, it doesn't quite have the same overall impact that I'd argue a record like Kala or even Arila has. And later on, she'd have albums like Matangi and AIM, probably the best thing she's done post M.I.A would be the song Bad Girls, which I absolutely adore. It's one of her best songs ever. I wasn't a crazy fan of their newest album, but, you know, we'll let it slide. So to sum this review up, I'm just going to talk about a few other reasons why I think this album is a classic. It's more than 10 years old now. It's had a massive impact on what music has been produced since, and some of the artists working on this record, such as, say, Timbaland on the final track, Diplo, who M.I.A really propelled into the mainstream. I think the two of them dated for a bit before Diplo went on to make his own music and later worked with Major Lazer. But obviously the lyrical subject matter clearly comes from a place of importance, having grown up in conflict and travelled around to all these crazy places and seeing the world and really getting a well-travelled view of what happens, as well as being influenced by her mother. That's the whole motherly aspect of it. But also this inventive sampling from all kinds of interesting places, fusing genres together from all around the world with such a sort of universal thing as, say, a 4/4 kick beat in dance music. And overall, some fantastic samples, you know, great choices of sampling. I can't think of many records that sample better than this one. The hooks are well written, they're sticky, they stick in your head. The production's fantastic, really. Some of the work done by Switch, Diplo and M.I.A herself is phenomenal and really went on to influence and took like sidechaining and other classic dance techniques and really propelled them into their own thing. And I'd argue, yeah, it's one of the best dance albums of all time. Paper Planes was a massive success, but that's not the only draw of this album. Pretty much every song has a reason as to why it should be on the album, and I'd argue there's no filler at all on this. And that is why I love this album. Genuinely, one of my favourite albums ever. I really wanted to talk about it today, and those are some reasons why you should listen to it if you haven't done. So that's where I'm going to end this video today. If you want to give your own opinion on how you think of this album or M.I.A in general as an artist, please let me know. Or if anything that you have your own opinion on, maybe some ideas for other videos, because I'm trying to upload a little bit more at the moment and want some more ideas, please let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and if you want to see more content like this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And that is all for now. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully see you in the next video.